Make no little plans. They have no magic to stir men's blood. Niccolo Machiavelli. We often pray for a grand life, yet we build it with small thoughts. We want to touch the sky, but only dare to walk within the cage of adequacy. Small plans create a fragile sense of peace, like the dim glow of a nightlight in a closed room. Enough so we aren't afraid, but not enough to light the path toward a greater version of ourselves. Humans always have a tendency to take shelter in the familiar. The brain prefers safety over the extraordinary, because any great ambition carries the risk of failure, loneliness, and pain. Thus, many live their whole lives like stagnant water. No collisions, no losses, but also never transforming into a thundering waterfall. They limit themselves with seemingly rational phrases. This is enough. Don't dream too big. Safe is better. But deep in their souls, they know they are betraying something sacred. For the human soul was not born to crawl upon the earth. It was born to burn bright. A grand plan is not merely a goal. It is a spiritual force of gravity. It pulls a person beyond their old, worn-out self. When someone dares to nurture a dream big enough, their eyes change. The way they walk changes. Even their silence carries a different kind of energy. Like a lighthouse in the night sea, a grand goal allows a person to endure the storms that would make those living superficially flee from the start. It is these vast aspirations that make a person wake up in the morning with a heart still hot. Not money, not comfort, but the feeling that one is moving towards something worth living for. The most terrifying thing is not failure. The most terrifying thing is living a life too small for the potential carried in your blood. There are those who have never lost, simply because they never dared to enter a battle big enough to make their soul vibrate. And as the years pass, they grow old in a cold stability, like a house that never breaks but has never known music, laughter, or the glow of a fire. A person truly lives only when they are pulled forward by something great. Create plans that make your heart beat faster, that keep you awake with excitement, that force you to grow to be worthy of them. A big dream might exhaust you, but it also awakens your soul. And sometimes, audacity itself is the most honest form of faith in life. Never let your memories be greater than your dreams. Ivester. Many people do not live by the future. They live by the remnants of the past. Memory should only be a room we visit, yet some turn it into a lifelong residence. They sit in the darkness of days gone by, polishing old victories, clutching ancient wounds, and letting time slip away like sand through their fingers. The greatest tragedy is not a painful past, but when the past becomes greater than the desire to live in the present. An old flame, a moment of glory, a younger version of oneself, all are gradually draped in a beautiful mist of memory. And then they begin to compare everything before them to what is already past. They no longer look at life with living eyes, but with eyes full of regret. Like someone constantly staring at the rearview mirror while driving, they will eventually lose their way or crash into the abyss of stagnation. Memory has a strange power. It is both a sanctuary and a prison. Those who no longer dream cling to the past because it is the only place they ever felt they mattered. But the human soul was not created to live in a museum of dead things. It was born to open doors, to move forward, to explore horizons never before touched. A truly mature person is not one who forgets the past, but one who knows how to place the future above all that has gone before. There are those who are young in years but old in soul, because they live more by nostalgia than by hope. Conversely, there are those with silver hair whose eyes still burn bright, because within them remains a fire directed toward tomorrow. It is dreams that keep a person forever young. Not age, not appearance, but the ability to still be moved by what has yet to happen. Life is most beautiful when one carries memories like a book already read, cherished but not slept upon on its old pages. For if memory is greater than the dream, the heart will gradually turn into a locked room. But when the dream is greater than memory, a person lives with the energy of the dawn, always with something ahead calling their name. History shows that those who end up changing the world are always called crazy until they are right then, they are geniuses. John Eliot. Since time immemorial, society has had a very strange psychological reflex. Anything that exceeds familiar limits is considered madness before it is hailed as greatness. People love things that are safe, predictable, and explainable by old logic. Thus, anyone who dares to step out of that orbit becomes an alien object in a sky full of fear. Those who change the world often live as if they have a fire inside that the majority cannot see. They see the future when others only see risk. They hear the sound of tomorrow amidst the mockery of the present. And that is precisely why they are misunderstood. A grand idea at its birth always wears the mask of insanity, because the world does not yet have the concepts to hold it. Like bringing a bolt of lightning into an era accustomed only to candlelight, people won't call it light, they will call it a threat. Crowd psychology always operates on consensus. Ordinary people feel safe being the same, thinking the same, living the same. Any individual who is different enough inadvertently shakes the belief system that society clings to. That is why geniuses must often pass through solitude before entering glory. They are ridiculed not because they are weak, but because they have traveled too far beyond the imagination of their time. Someone, speaking of flying in the sky in an era without airplanes, would be seen as delusional. But when humanity actually takes flight, that same idea becomes a symbol of intellect. The world always praises innovation after it succeeds, yet finds every way to stifle it while it is young. People like the results of audacity, but they fear the audacious steps themselves. This is a recurring tragedy in human history. Great individuals often carry two identities in one life, first as a madman and only later as a legend. But it is precisely that madness that is the engine driving civilization forward. Without those who dare to do the irrational, the world would remain forever in the cage of the familiar. Every leap of humanity begins with a thought that makes the majority laugh. Therefore, sometimes the sign of an extraordinary mind lies not in immediate recognition, but in the courage to keep walking amidst countless doubting gazes. The boundary between a madman and a genius is sometimes just a matter of time. And history always belongs to those who dare to endure solitude long enough to prove that what is impossible today will become obvious tomorrow. Instead of thinking about what you will do when you retire, think about how you can do it now and make a living from it. So many people live as if happiness is a reward received after decades of endurance. They wake up every day for a job that drains their energy, then comfort themselves that one day, when they have enough money, enough age, enough security, they will finally start being true to themselves. While waiting for freedom, they gradually lose the ability to feel free. Humans are often hypnotized by the concept of later. Later I will write. Later I will travel. Later I will live slowly. Later I will do what I love. The word later is like a room full of fog. The further you walk in, the harder it is to find the way out. And as the years pass, many suddenly realize they have spent most of their lives preparing for a life that never actually began. Modern society teaches people how to exist, but rarely teaches them how to live. People are trained to be stable, to be safe, to become a smooth running gear in the common machine. But deep inside every person, there always exists an instinct to create, to be free, to do the thing that makes their heart light up. That is why there are those who earn a lot of money but have empty eyes, while others do what they love with a soul full of vitality. Because life energy doesn't come from how much you own, but from whether you are living true to what makes you wake up every morning. The most terrifying thing is not poverty, but trading your entire youth to buy a future that you might not even have the passion left to enjoy. There are those who spend 40 years climbing the ladder of success, only to finally realize the ladder was leaning against someone else's wall. They have the money, the position, the stability, but their soul is as weary as a garden neglected for too long. Don't wait until the end of your life to start living the life you want. If there is something you are passionate about, find a way to bring it into the present, even if only in small part. For when a person makes a living from what they truly love, work is no longer just labor, it becomes an expression of the soul. And then, every day is no longer a countdown to retirement, but a meaningful journey in every moment. Life should not be a long-term contract with endurance. It should be a place where one burns bright with what makes them feel truly alive. When we are motivated by goals that have deep meaning, by dreams that need completion, then we are truly living. Greg Anderson. So many people are existing, but not truly living. They move through the days like shadows with a schedule. Their lives are full of movement but lack a soul, like a perfect machine running with no light inside. A person truly lives only when there is something greater than mere existence pulling them forward. A profound goal turns every morning from an obligation into an invitation. A sincere dream makes difficulties no longer just pain, but the beautiful price for something worth pursuing. And pure love is the strangest energy source that humans have ever carried. It allows an ordinary person to become stronger than they ever imagined. When there is nothing worth believing in, worth loving, worth dedicating oneself to, the soul will gradually wither regardless of how abundant life is on the outside. That is why there are those who possess every comfort but still feel empty, while others walk through hardships with eyes burning bright. Because what nourishes a person is not just material things, but the feeling of connecting to something of value beyond themselves. A true dream doesn't just live in the head, it breathes with the heartbeat of its bearer. It keeps them awake at night and resilient on days when they feel like collapsing. Like a seed always reaching for the sun despite being buried deep in dark soil, humans only thrive when they have a reason to rise. Without purpose, life becomes a mechanical cycle. With purpose, every tiny moment carries the beauty of life. And pure love is what makes every aspiration more meaningful. Not the kind of love that possesses or controls, but the kind that makes a person want to become their most beautiful version to give away. That love is like light, piercing through the thick ice of solitude, softening the sharpest parts of the soul. It makes a person understand that living is not just to exist for oneself, but also to touch someone else's heart with the deepest sincerity. Life is most beautiful, not when we have everything, but when the fire inside us has not gone out. For that is when a person is not just living, but truly blooming in this life. The most important thing about a goal is having one. Geoffrey F. What makes a human life gradually wither is not just failure, but the feeling of not knowing where one is going. A ship without a course will be controlled by every wave. A person without a goal is the same. A goal is like a lighthouse in the dark. It doesn't make the sea calmer, but it gives a person a reason to keep steering. A person with a goal still feels fatigue and doubt, but deep down, there is an invisible pull that prevents them from collapsing easily. Meanwhile, those without a goal often live in a state of drift, working without feeling meaning. Humans need a point to aim for, just as the body needs oxygen to breathe. When there is a goal, the brain starts to organize vital energy. Difficulties become more bearable because pain is no longer meaningless. A mountain climber can endure the cold, hunger, and solitude simply because they know there is something on the peak they want to touch. But if there is no peak in the mind, even a small slope is enough to make one give up. The special thing is that a goal doesn't necessarily have to be grand in the eyes of the world. It only needs to be real enough in your own heart. The value of a goal doesn't lie in how many people admire it, but in whether it has enough power to wake your soul up every morning. Many think they must find the perfect path before starting, but in truth, the most dangerous thing is standing still too long in ambiguity. An imperfect goal is still better than a directionless soul. Because when a person starts walking, they gradually discover who they are and what the strongest version of themselves looks like. Life doesn't become meaningful because it is easy, but because we have something to aim for amidst the chaos. And on the journey toward it, we become a completely different person, deeper, stronger, and more true to our own soul. The only reason people don't have what they want is because of the story they tell themselves. Tony Robbins. We often think life is blocked by circumstances, but most of the strongest chains are created by invisible fear within. Humans have a special ability, building their own prisons and calling them reasonability. We want to change our lives, but say we aren't good enough. We want to start a big dream, but always wait for the right time. The human brain always seeks safety over breakthrough. Every time we stand before something that could change our life, the mind immediately creates a series of reasons to delay. Those reasons sound very logical, but in reality, they are often just a fine coat covering fear. The sad truth is that people often fail not for lack of ability, but because they surrender in their minds before they even truly begin. They are like birds born with wide wings who lock themselves in the cage of doubt. Self-limitation is the silent killer of countless dreams. It makes people accustomed to shrinking themselves to fit into what is safe. Gradually, they stop asking, "What do I truly want?" and only ask, "What is the least risky?" And when a person stops living by aspiration, their soul begins to age even before their body. If we are the ones who created those barriers, then we are also the ones with the power to break them. The moment a person stops making excuses, life begins to move. Not because the world suddenly becomes easy, but because their mind is no longer a battlefield against itself. One real step, however small, is always stronger than 1,000 reasons to stay still. The lives of many do not lack opportunity, but lack the courage to step past the negative stories they tell themselves. The trouble with not having a goal is that you can spend your life running up and down the field and never score. Busy to the point of exhaustion, yet not really going anywhere. They are always bustling, but deep inside there remains a nameless void. Humans often mistake activity for progress. We are hypnotized by busyness because it creates the illusion that we are living a valuable life. But without a clear goal, all that movement is often just like a player running all over the field in vain. It is very easy to get caught in the inertia of life, pursuing success standards set by society, without ever truly asking oneself, "What am I living for?" And then many years pass, and they suddenly realize they have spent most of their energy meeting the world's expectations. Without a goal, a person easily becomes a victim of circumstances. They react to life instead of leading it. They live by pressure, by comparison, by the fear of being left behind, rather than by meaning. A true goal not only gives a person direction, but also gives them an identity. When they know what they are aiming for, they endure better, focus more, and live with more depth. A person without a goal often scatters their life into 100 trivial things, finally exhausting themselves in aimlessness. The most terrifying thing is realizing at the end of life that you spent too much time on runs that led nowhere. For life does not reward busyness, it rewards clarity. From that moment on, they no longer just run to exist, they begin to walk with the awareness of bringing themselves closer to what matters most. If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. Jim Rohn. Many people are living, but it is not their own life. They walk on paths drawn by family or the crowd. We fear judgment, failure, and loneliness so much that we unconsciously hand over the controls of our lives to others. An adult wakes up every day to fulfill roles that do not belong to them. If you have never truly sat down to ask yourself what you want, then it's likely all your choices are just reactions to expectations. You choose a job to be recognized, choose a lifestyle so as not to be an outcast, and then one day you look back at a life full of everything except a sense of belonging. The large systems of society don't need you to live extraordinarily. They need you to be compliant enough to keep them running. If you don't write your own direction, your life will automatically be filled with the goals of others. Many spend their whole lives climbing the ladder of success, only to find the ladder never led where their heart wanted to go. Designing your own life means being alert enough not to lose yourself amidst the noise of the crowd. A person without their own direction is like a boat drifting in the ocean without anyone at the helm. But when a person begins to design their own life, they no longer exist to satisfy the world. They begin to live to complete themselves. You need a plan to build a house. To build a life, it is even more important to have a plan or a goal. Zig Ziglar. No one can build a stable life through randomness. Without direction, vital energy will be scattered into 100 trivial things. The strange thing is that people are very careful with tangible things, but incredibly superficial with their own lives. They live more by reflex than by consciousness, like someone laying every brick in the dark without knowing what they are building. When there is no goal, life easily becomes a series of days of meaningless energy consumption. Like a ship drifting in the ocean without a chart, they may move a lot, but ultimately never reach a port. A life plan provides a person with a spiritual axis, a reason to stand up when tired, a point to return to when lost. A person with a goal usually lives more steadfastly because they know every hardship is just a part of a longer journey. The most terrifying thing is not moving slowly, but living many years without ever knowing what you are building for your soul. There are those who spend their lives pleasing others, only to feel their life has no warmth at the end. A life with a goal only needs to be clear enough so that each morning one knows they are laying one more brick for the future. Because ultimately, life is formed from what we are conscious enough to build with all our heart and steadfastness.